Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean and today I'm going to be doing a review of A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. So about 2 years ago I was at the bookstore and I saw this book, The Kingdom of the Wicked, signed by Anthony Burgess. And so I knew of him because he is on the top 1000 list for A Clockwork Orange. So I got it because you know I'm a sucker for signed books. Now, I did not have any clue what this book was about. I was vaguely aware that there was a movie, but I didn't know anything about the premise. Now, of course, my first thought was about the language of the book, and I don't mean profanity. This book has sort of a made-up language, and when I found out about that, when I realized that, I remembered that I've heard of this book before, where basically these teenagers have came up with this sort of other language, like this street slang, and they use it kind of to hide what they say from everyone else, especially the police. And this is a made-up language. I think Burgess used for inspiration like Slavic words, as well as Cockney, which I think is like British rhyming slang. And most all of the book is in this language. So like half of it is normal English and then half of it is this made up language. Now, at first, really, because of this other language, I could only understand like 10% of what these people were saying just based on context. And at the start, it was like I couldn't learn the language at all. It was just incomprehensible. And I really thought in the first 15 pages or so that this book was basically garbage. I thought it was just stupid. Why would he do this? Why is there any kind of value in this? How could anyone have published it? I just thought it was trash. If I did not have a signed book by him, I would have probably just DNF'd it there like 10, 15 pages in. But I really wanted to like it since I have the signed book by him. So I kind of kept reading and still I was like, oh man, this is stupid. I can't understand what they are saying. It is just stupid. Why would you do this? But as I read, I started to pick up on words here and there. So, I started to learn like 20% of the language. And then like 50% into the book, I was like, now I'm understanding like 40% of the language. And it just kept expanding as it went. Finally, about like 60% in or so, 70% in, basically when the character is sent to this mental hospital, at that point I was able to understand most of the language except for the occasional word here or there. The cat was just meowing up a storm outside my door and he brought this, a toy. He's the only cat I've ever known who like fetches toys. So he brought this to my door like saying, play with me, here's the toy I want you to play with. Here he is. Isn't he a cute boy? Simon, aren't you a cute boy? Look at the camera. Say hello to everyone on YouTube. Okay, there you go. So what to say about the language in this book? I did read the whole thing and I liked how I was beginning to learn the language. I don't really want to give Burgess much credit for this language he used because I don't think it was really any kind of brilliance or anything like that. I don't think it was any kind of genius or inspired or whatever. I don't know, because it just doesn't seem like it'd be too difficult just coming up with varieties of words and just swapping them out for normal words. So I don't know, I don't really give him any positives for that. But in the end, when I finished the book, it wasn't really a negative either. So when I started, yes, it almost made me DNF the book. And if you read this book, you'll know what I mean. It's very peculiar and just odd. But pressing on, reading the whole book, I finally kind of got to learn the language, and I kind of liked it then. And it was kind of cool, like all of a sudden I was kind of like versed in this other language. So, it's like learning another language, and by the end of the book I kind of did, except for the occasional word here or there. The next thing I have to say is that this book is very violent. So let's go ahead and talk about the plot of the book. And I'm not going to put spoilers here, but basically this book is about this teenager named Alex who has these friends who have this made-up language, and all they really do all day is go around and commit crimes. And the book is very violent. The things they do are really violent, despicable, and yeah. I will go ahead and put a light spoiler here. So if you don't want to see that, go ahead and skip to the next part. So what winds up happening is Alex commits a major crime and he gets sent to prison. And then he gets this option to go through this mental program where they could fix him so he gets released. And that leads into the most famous thing I think about this book and the film, the most famous scene or image or whatever. And that is when he is sent to this mental institution, he has his eyes forced open and is made to watch these very violent films. And I knew of that image, especially like I know Simpsons has lampooned it before. So when I kind of got just before that scene, I was like, oh yes, this is the book where he's made to watch those violent videos. So that's where this comes from. And so yeah, that's where this is from. So I thought that was kind of neat because I didn't really know that as I was reading the book. Now, the thing about the violence in this book is, like I say, it's very violent, but what makes it really kind of otherworldly, if you see I'm distracted, it's because the cat is swimming around me like a shark. Because he uses this other language, it makes the violence really otherworldly, almost poetic. So for instance, instead of saying like, we punched a woman's mouth and she bled and then we raped her, what the book says is something like, we punched, I don't know the word for punched offhand and I don't want to get it wrong, but we punched her rot and the krovvy came out all red or shiny, and then we did the old in and out. And that's basically how the book goes. So that is a lot more poetic than just saying we punched her in the mouth, she bled, and then we raped her. No, it's we hit her in the rot and the red krovvy came out all shiny, and then we did the old in and out. And in a way, that almost makes it beautiful in a way, or poetic. So that makes the violence, I don't know how to say it, but it makes it like simultaneously worse and also like beautiful in a way, kind of poetic. So that in a way almost, I don't know the right word, but it like desensitizes it or whatever. So it's really peculiar, just I think the effect the language has on the violence of the book. So one more thing I want to point out is that this book does have a controversial final chapter. Apparently what happened was the American publisher thought that the final chapter of this book should have been cut, and Burgess went along with it just because he wanted to get it published. So the American version, which the film is based on, does not have the final chapter. And so basically what American readers and the viewers of the film saw was that the book had more of a bad ending. And I don't mean like a poor ending, I just mean it was... I would kind of compare it to 1984 by George Orwell, how it ends with I love Big Brother. The original ending was kind of like that, where the hero kind of lost in the end, or he did not prevail against his demons, basically. But Burgess originally wanted this book to end another way, and that's how he had it in the international version, where the main character kind of grows up. So when I read the book, the chapter before last, how the American version ended, and the film, I thought it was a pretty strong ending. Like, I could see why the publisher thought, bam, right there, that's it, that's the end, perfect. And I don't know, but still, I think it's cool having both versions, so you could read the American final chapter, which is not the one Burgess wanted to end with, and then the final chapter he wrote, which has more of a good ending where the character grows up, and you can kind of choose for yourself which one you like more. I definitely do think the American version has a stronger ending in a way, just like a more memorable ending. But I like reading both, and that way you kind of get a bad ending and a good ending, and you could kind of choose for yourself which one you think is better, which one you kind of want to go with. Okay, so rating it. This book has run a gauntlet. So at first, the first 15 pages or so, I wanted to DNF the book and give it 1 star and kind of regret that I got an Anthony Burgess signed book because I just thought it was stupid. Why would anyone publish this? This is trash. But I kept reading and I got, 40% in, 50% in. And I thought, the book's okay, maybe 2 stars. Kind of when it got to the mental hospital scene, I was like, maybe I'll give it 3 stars because, it's not really terrible once you get into the language and get used to that. When I got towards the end, like the final, 40 pages, 30 pages, I was kind of like, I could give this book 4 stars maybe. When I finished it and I was thinking about the whole thing, I kind of start leaning toward giving it 5 stars, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So, this book gets a 5-star rating from me. Now, there are many different kinds of ways books can earn 5 stars. There's an easy way is a book I really like, a book that is entertaining, where I just love the book. It's just an all-time favorite. That is one way, entertainment. Another way is like historical significance, where I can understand this book has a very important role in history, basically. An example of that would be like To Kill a Mockingbird. With that book, I read it and I'm plainly like, oh yeah, this is a classic. This is worth 5 stars. Another way a book can get 5 stars is by being beautifully written or excellently written, perfectly written, whatever. Just the writing itself is just solid. I cannot say a single thing about it. It may not be the most entertaining book in the world. It may not be my favorite book in the world, but I can tell reading it that this author really has skill, and I just admire that. I cannot say anything bad about it, so it gets 5 stars for just pure skill and finesse. This book gets 5 stars more because it is an experience. Reading this book is not like anything you've ever read before or will likely ever read again. It's so unique, and reading it, I'm sorry I just had to use the word again, but it's an experience. It almost seems like life-changing. Maybe not life-changing, but it's definitely something that's like a seminal moment in your life. Like when you read this book, it's maybe something you never forget. Even if perhaps it's not your favorite book, even if you don't really like it, it's something that's so unique and memorable, and it's an experience. So, I give it 5 stars for that reason. I would be a little bit reluctant to recommend it because it is so unique. I can of course understand why people would not like this book or even hate it. I nearly hated it for a while, but I just pressed on. I gave it every chance in the world and I read it through to the end. But I could understand how people could start it and just be like, dude, this is trash and it's so violent. There's just nothing good about it. So why would you recommend this? So I don't really want to do that. I don't want to stake my reputation on that. But like I say, I think it's memorable. I think it's an experience reading it. And so for that reason, I think it is worth giving it a try. And like I say, even though the language may be real confusing at first, just try to keep on with it and you'll pick it up as you go along. You'll start to learn contextually certain words like rot is mouth and red krovvy is blood and so on. So you begin to pick up the vocabulary, and yeah, it's just really interesting reading it, and I liked learning the language and being able to understand this character in their own language. It's just really interesting as an experience, and by the end of it, I was really glad I kept reading. So, I can't really say anything bad about it in the end, beyond what I've already said about how it's difficult at first to learn the language. It is very violent, but still, I give it 5 stars. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly how this affects other Anthony Burgess books for me for my to-read list, like if it makes them raise in my to-read list or not. But Burgess does say in the introduction of this book that he kind of hates that A Clockwork Orange is his most famous book, because there are other books he wrote that he kind of likes more, that he thinks are better books, but this is the one that's famous, and he largely credits the film with this, because personally he's kind of like, oh, Clockwork Orange, why is everyone liking that book? I hate that book. And that's kind of funny, but I think I'm definitely interested in reading other books by him, but it's not like so good that I'm going to rush to do that. But basically from this book, I'm definitely open to reading more from him. And at the end of the day, if readers are willing to give a book by you another read, I think that's all you can really hope for. So, have you guys read this book? Have you read any other books by Burgess? Have you seen the movie? Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Kitty cat. What you doing, kitty cat? Good. Hello. Hello. My boy. There you go.